Mother's Day, a moment to celebrate love.
I like to receive flowers and coffee.
But behind the bouquets we give is a global journey most of us never see. Coming up, the flowers flown in from thousands of kilometers away, often grown using chemicals few consumers know about.
There are many pesticides on it. You can measure it.
And the hands that grow them, many of them mothers too.
Because most of the people are here, they are here to earn their living.
But it's not just what we give, it's what we consume. Because hidden in the food we eat every day are choices we don't always realize we're making. Do you think most people would accept eggs from caged hens if they actually saw the conditions the birds live in?
The amount of space that they are allowed in that enrichment cage would be about an A4 sheet of paper.
Just 2 degrees is on. Now,
they are in a stressful state until the day they die.
Mother's Day is one of those moments many of us hold close. It's a chance to say thank you and show love, sometimes in the simplest ways. Flowers, in particular, have become a symbol of that appreciation, a gesture that can say so much without saying a word. But behind that beauty, there's often a story we don't see, one that stretches far beyond the bouquet itself. For many, Mother's Day begins with something simple. A bouquet of fresh flowers, carefully chosen and lovingly given. A small token for everything words can't quite capture.
At its basic core level, there's something about this medium that speaks to us outside of words. People are drawn to beautiful, blooming gardens, flowers.
But those flowers rarely begin where they end. Behind each bouquet is a journey. From farms in countries like Kenya, Colombia, or Ecuador, to refrigerated trucks, cargo planes, and shop shelves thousands of kilometers away. It is a global system that's built to deliver beauty right on time. But like many things we rely on every day, that system comes with a cost. Transporting flowers by air can give a single bouquet a carbon footprint of several kilograms. And depending on how they're grown, some can carry many times the emissions of locally grown seasonal ones. Though in some cases, flowers grown naturally in warmer climates can actually be less carbon intensive than those grown in heated greenhouses. It's a reminder that the story isn't always simple.
I think everyone's aware of carbon emissions and the impact they have on the world, but I suppose they don't always see what they can do about it and how the natural world can help them.
But the impact doesn't stop at carbon. Studies show that the vast majority of cut flowers carry residues from multiple pesticides, sometimes more than 10 different chemicals on a single bouquet.
And also the welfare of the people that are growing the flowers that is problematic.
Many of these substances are linked to serious health risks. And for the people growing and handling these flowers, exposure is part of daily life. The cost of that bouquet may not be paid where it's bought. None of that takes away from what the gesture means, but it does raise the question, what does it really take to say thank you? And how much of that story do we ever get to see? When it comes to the comforts of modern living, do you think the average consumer cares about how much pesticides there are?
No, because pesticides are used at many places, but you don't smell it, you don't see it as consumer. Or if you cross a field which is the pesticides are applied, then you can smell it. But the consumer who's living in a city or in a village, they are not aware about the pesticides. Also, if you have flowers with pesticides or fruits or vegetables, you don't see it.
Are there really lots of pesticides in the products we buy? I mean, is it something that we can observe before making a purchase?
We know there are many pesticides on it. You can measure it. The laboratory can identify the pesticides. But then, how to avoid it, it's very difficult. You cannot wash, you can wash the fruits, you can wash the vegetables. Somehow, some pesticides may disappear, but most of them are inside of the product, so they will stay in it. You cannot remove them easily.
Margriet, in your region, what regulations do you think are needed to make things safer for everyone?
Yeah, that's really a big issue. We have the European law for approval of pesticides. They are tested somehow on possible effects on nature, on human being, for health risks. So the government is saying if they are approved and they are tested, then it's safe under the condition that they are used properly according to the instructions. But we know also there are many pesticides. They were some time approved, and finally it seems they are very harmful to bees, like the neonicotinoids, imidacloprid, and they are very bad famous. You can say they are responsible for the loss of bees and other insects. And there are also many pesticides which are hormone disrupting chemicals, and which first they were approved and now they are forbidden. So the tests to identify certain risks are very on a very low level. And some negative effects are not tested because they are not able to test it, like the disease of Parkinson. It's a neurotoxic disease. You can be exposed to pesticides, but maybe 10 or 20 years later, then the disease appears.
And when do you anticipate we'll finally have a pesticide-free planet?
That's a wish, a dream. I say it will not be possible. It will be very difficult. But at least we have to avoid the most toxic, we have to ban the most toxic pesticides. We have to see how to minimize the use. And in the European Union, it is obliged by law to use an integrated pest management. That means first you see, do I need the pesticide? Are there other methods? How to, maybe mechanical methods, or by another system of farming. It is possible.
We often think of flowers as something decorative, something we give or place in a vase to brighten the moment. But a flower is actually one of the most important parts of a plant's life. It's time for Just Do Matter, where the little things can shape our world. It's how many plants reproduce. Using color, scent, and nectar, flowers attract pollinators like bees and insects. And as they move from one flower to another, they carry tiny grains of pollen. Some of that pollen lands on a part of the flower called the stigma. And that's where the process begins, fertilization. Once that happens, the flower changes, developing into fruit and seeds that will grow into new life, which means many of the foods we rely on every day, like apples and tomatoes, once began as a flower. So the next time you see one, remember, it's not just something beautiful, but also part of a system that helps feed the world. Let's take you to Kenya, one of the world's leading flower exporters, where vast farms grow roses destined for markets thousands of kilometers away, including Europe. It's an industry worth hundreds of millions of dollars each year, supporting hundreds of thousands of livelihoods. It is a major economic engine.
If this factory wouldn't be here, we will lose a lot of jobs because most of the people are here. They are hardly working. They are here to earn their living. This is where they depend for their school fees, their basic needs, and everything that they need in their homes. This is where they get the money to support themselves.
Meanwhile, in the UK, an estimated 20 million Brits bought their mums flowers on Mother's Day, which the country celebrates in March. But reportedly, almost no one who purchases bouquets know where the flowers actually come from. I called up the Fairtrade Foundation, who tracks this data. When someone in the UK buys a bouquet for Mother's Day, where are those flowers most likely coming from?
Yeah, so most people assume that they come from the UK even, or from Europe, and they're more local. But yeah, in reality, the majority of flowers this time of year come from East Africa. And for workers, especially women workers who are the majority of the workforce in the flower industry in East Africa, are facing very difficult working conditions and often very low wages as well. So it's a real sort of consumer blind spot, really, as to where their flowers are coming from and who's behind them and what life is like for people in the flower supply chain.
Why has East Africa, particularly countries like Kenya and Ethiopia, become such a major hub for flower production?
So this sort of dates back to a sort of while ago, really, when it became more made more sense to move flower production for year-round flowers, to meet the demand for year-round flowers, to regions where flowers grow in the natural conditions in those countries. So obviously East Africa is on the equator. It's the perfect environment for growing flowers. You've got the sun, you've got year-round positive conditions for growing flowers. So it just is a lot more cost effective, especially for European industry, to grow flowers in regions where naturally flowers grow, compared to in Europe, where a lot of inputs are required in terms of greenhouses and energy to produce stems in the winter season. So yeah, that's like the kind of I guess the reason why the flowers are grown in East Africa. But of course, also it's a cheaper workforce in general, and that itself comes with a lot of challenges, because in a lot of the countries that flowers are grown, there's limited protections for workers. So in Ethiopia, for example, there's no legal minimum wage for the flower industry. In Uganda, the minimum wage hasn't been revised since the 80s. And in Kenya, the wages are still really low. So the average flower worker earns less than £2 a day. So yeah, the conditions for workers are really challenging. And that's where, Fairtrade is kind of focusing our campaigns, and where we're encouraging consumers to think about where flowers come from and look for the Fairtrade mark when they're buying flowers, but also to support campaigning that we are doing as the Fairtrade Foundation. This is more specific to the UK, but where we're calling on the UK government to introduce a responsible business law that requires businesses to protect workers and environment in supply chains. So yeah, that's a summary of what we're focusing on at Fairtrade in relation to the flower sector.
Thanks so much, Becky. Let me take this moment to introduce our new segment, Life Adjusted, where we look at how the climate crisis is quietly but fundamentally reshaping life on Earth.
Entonces la gente empezó a decir, esto es en serio, es de verdad. Y ya no solo es un oso polar flotando en una islita y pobrecito oso, es cómo se va a ver afectar a mi calidad de vida, ¿no? En la ciudad, las personas que lamentablemente también lo padecen, incluso hasta la muerte, ¿no?
We've told many stories about how we impact the natural world, from cutting down trees to polluting rivers and the way we treat animals. But there's a deeper question we don't often ask. Not just what we do to other living things, but how we're able to do it. There is a contradiction at the center of everyday life. We care about animals, form bonds with them, protect them, name, love them, and yet we also consume them. So how do those two realities exist? What allows us to feel empathy and still participate in the systems that cause harm? Well, scientists have studied this for years, and what they've found isn't necessarily that we're inherently cruel, but that we are remarkably good at adapting the way we think. There's a term for this contradiction, the meat paradox. The idea that we can care about animals while also eating them. And according to research, that creates a kind of psychological tension known as cognitive dissonance.
I can't imagine someone eating my pet. I'd hate them forever. So, disgusting, yuck. I wouldn't eat at a restaurant that has dogs.
So the brain looks for ways to resolve it, not always by changing behavior, but by changing perception. One of the most powerful mechanisms is something called moral disengagement, a concept developed by psychologist Albert Bandura, where we don't stop caring about animals entirely, we simply stop applying that concern in certain moments.
Sometimes crimes against animals are not considered serious because animals in the law are considered property.
Another mechanism is more subtle and more unsettling. In a series of studies led by Brock Bastian and Steve Lockman, researchers found that when people think of animals as food, they're more likely to deny those animals have minds, emotions, or the ability to suffer, a process sometimes referred to as denial of mind. And then there's distance. Research shows that the more removed we are from the animal, the easier it becomes to consume it. Even language plays a role. We don't say cow, we say beef, not pig, but pork. A shift that helps create psychological distance. What's striking is that empathy doesn't disappear. Studies show that many people still feel empathy towards animals, but that empathy is managed, it's adjusted. And over time, exposure matters. Research into desensitization shows that repeated exposure with harm can reduce how strongly we react to it, making something that once felt uncomfortable feel normal.
We believe that animals are not ours to eat. And certainly in every python handbag, in every python pair of shoes, in every slice of python meat, there's a world of suffering.
So the question may not be, are we cruel, but something more difficult. How do we reshape the way we see other living things so that we can live with the choices we make? And if that perception can change, what else might we be adjusting without even realizing it? And that takes us to hen caging, which is currently a divisive issue in the UK. Millions of Brits buy eggs every day, often without thinking too much about where they come from. But behind something as simple as an egg is a system that has long raised questions about animal welfare. You may know Peter Egan from the popular series Downton Abbey.
Don't blame me if she is the object of ridicule.
I won't. Whatever else I might blame you for.
You are a fool to indulge her. Have you never stopped?
No, you stop! Stop making everyone so unhappy all the bloody time!
He's also a well-known campaigner who's been calling for an end to hen caging. Do you think most people would accept eggs from caged hens if they actually saw the conditions the birds live in?
I think that if any normal, I use the word advisedly, any normal human being saw the way that any animal is treated for intensive animal agriculture, either in slaughterhouses or how they are raised to be of the right weight for meat, or in the dairy industry where their calves are taken away from them the day after they are born and they mourn for them. They are kept in a constant state of pregnancy, the dairy cows, in order to produce milk for their calves. And their milk, of course, goes to human beings. And I don't understand, because I know it's been going on for years and years and years, so people won't change. But we don't need calves' milk. Calves need calves' milk. We need our mother's milk, and then we reach an age where we don't need it anymore. We can have everything else. As far as caged hens are concerned, hen-laying, egg-laying caged hens, the thing that is so shocking about them, as I'm sure you know, Reagan, is that they are kept in what they call enrichment cages. And an enrichment cage can hold either 10, 20, or 30 egg-laying hens. And the amount of space that they are allowed in that enrichment cage, it would be about an A4 sheet of paper. So they have no ability to exhibit normal natural behavior. They can't turn around. They sort of lean on each other. They can't peck the ground, so they peck each other. They are in a stressful state from the day that they get into this so-called enrichment cage until the day they die. And it is, I mean, there is a belief which I would strongly endorse, although I'm a vegan, so I don't eat any animal product, that stressed animals produce bad product. And I do believe that. I think humans, when they're stressed, do not act at their best. So I think animals are precisely the same. It's interesting that I think throughout Europe, France, Germany, Austria, Luxembourg, they have all banned, they've ended the cage age in this way. 80% of the UK are against cages. I think it's something like 13% of hen-laying, egg-laying hens are in cages. It's about 7 million. So it's, you know, it's not rocket science to actually end the cage age altogether, which has been a magnificent campaign run for many years by Compassion in World Farming. So it's not going to be a disaster. And also, they have calculated that if all egg-laying hens were free range, it would probably add in the region of 1.50 pennies to any family's shopkeeping bill on a daily basis. That's about 12p a week. So, you know, it's not even the price of, I don't know what you can buy for 12p anymore, nothing as far as I can think of, but it's nothing, you know, and it would give a great deal of happiness to these poor creatures, because they could have some kind of, I mean, if you're going to abuse an animal because you want its product, at least give it a happy life.
The farmers say banning cages would increase costs or imports. How do you balance welfare, animal welfare, with those economic concerns?
Well, I mean, I don't see how animals in cages are that economic as far as farmers are concerned. I mean, it means they can control the animal more, I suppose, and that maybe saves them a bit. But if the statistics are correct, as I just said, if you ended the cage age, particularly for these hens, you're only going to add 12 pence a week to the shopping bill. It's nothing. So I don't follow that argument at all. And I do think, you know, because we get all of this kind of stuff about farmers loving their animals, if farmers love their animals, then let them behave and give them the opportunity to have natural behavior before they're killed.
And that's our show. You know, today we looked at flowers and the systems behind them. Also the way we treat animals, many depend on. But this wasn't about pointing fingers, just taking a closer look at the things we don't often question. Because sometimes understanding more is where change actually begins.